minutes.
Way back in, I think it was 2000.
Really?
One, two, three, something like that.
It's so slow and
President Bush
sometimes it doesn't get
decided to end the state program. And
Okay, I'll call the Board of Selectmen to order, January 18th, 2018. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would anybody like to add something to the agenda? Okay, I'd like to add two things. One, I got an application from Cher Balsh to be on the Charter Revision Study Committee. So if you could add her name to the board and commission, that would be great, or committees. And also, the Charter Revision Study Commission met, I believe it was Tuesday, and they need a recording secretary. So I'd like to add to new business approving a recording secretary for the Charter Revision Study Committee. So I will move that we add Cher Balsh to the resignations and approvals, and the recording secretary for the Charter Review Study Commission as new business item 11B. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
I'm opposed.
Thank you, Jason. I move that we accept the regular minutes for January 9th, 2018. Is there a second?
second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Jason?
Abstain. Vote here.
Okay, communications. I have no communications. Is there any communications? Okay, public participation. Paul.
Paul Anderson. Okay, so back and forth with Joe Sauerhofer and various people. The wooden beam that was on the wall here is at the Osborne house and will be a fireplace mantle. So it's been found and it's going to be in a historic place.
It has a plaque with it too, I guess.
I believe there's one on it.
Okay.
But right now it's not facing out, but there's a note on it, so there's no dispute over what it is.
Okay,
That's taken care of.
good.
I guess from my perspective, I was hoping it was going to come back here. We have so many people coming to meetings and so forth, and people from the outside. I don't know what kind of traffic they get there, but if you think that's the best, then we should do that.
Not what I think. I had nothing to do with it. I just wanted to find it. I found it. You want it back here?
No, I agree with Charlie. It was
Go.
here,
Yes,
and I think it should be returned here.
okay.
It's our meeting room here is a much more traveled and used area than, than the Osborne house. Is there how do we go about doing that?
Well, I really don't have a preference, so I'll contact Joe and Lenny and see what they think, and if there's any pushback from anybody, then they can come and talk to us. So,
Jason, what do you think, just as a matter of interest for the committee?
I liked it here.
Yeah.
But So when I was a kid and I first started coming to town meetings, the Charter Oak was the thing that, you know, had the significance for me. And that picture, which I didn't appreciate at the time, was the thing that I hated. And then I actually learned the history behind it, and that is actually a wicked, wicked cool picture. But those are the two things from my high school and college years that I remember about these meetings that would keep me interested.
Mhm.
I also appreciate that the Osborne House is an appropriate place for the beam, although as a mantelpiece, I kind of feel as though that's lost, and I don't know that they have or will have the traffic that this place does.
That's my comment. Is there anything else that has to be done? If we as a board agree, is it a done deal to bring it back here?
I guess it is. I would say that. I thought it'd kind of be diplomatic about it, but if you want to pass a motion, we can do that.
I'd like to make a motion that the Charter Oak piece be brought back to the town hall and installed in its original location.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, further public participation. We may have a short meeting tonight, so.
Don't count on it.
No, okay, 250th, oh, no, we got, sorry. We have a new appointment. So I would move, we add Cher Bosch to the Charter Revision Study Committee. Is there a second?
I second it.
Discussion? Jason?
So I can't help but notice that all but one of the members is affiliated with Crew, and as that is a relatively contentious group, I'm not sure that it's doing the town any services to have that, only that body represented. I also recall that when Ms. Balch was a member of the Parks and Recreation Committee, her attendance was spotty, and I'm wondering if circumstances in her life may have changed to allow her to more fully participate.
Okay, I think there's one more opening on this committee. But I'll have to double check. We'll have to check if we can get someone else. But she has good references, and she is a business owner in town, so I have no problem with
A point, this group is really a study group.
that. Absolutely.
They don't have any authority to make changes,
None at all.
except to point out changes that they think should be made. And I understand where Jason's coming from. I would really like to get a mix of people, you know, the people from Crew have specific ideas and goals, and give them credit, they go work them. They're a very active group. Somehow, and this kind of goes to what you and I have to talk about a little bit, that is how do we stir interest in the town for committees and commissions. I think that's really an important thing.
I agree with you. In fact, it's on the agenda.
I know it is.
Yeah.
But I don't think that we should turn down someone like Cher Balch because she is a member of Crew or whatever. If this were a group that were going to make changes, then I might feel differently. But this is not that group. This is a group that's going to do an analysis, make recommendations, and the business group is going to start up in July or August or something like that.
Yeah, I think hopefully sooner, maybe June.
So I would agree with her. She's a hard worker. I would agree she'd be a useful and productive member of the committee. And I'd like to urge the board to find some way of getting out and getting a larger population of people that the board can pick from, I think that's really, really important, and not easy to do.
Agree with you in both cases, yes. I think we have to reach out to the community more and find ways to do that. And that's a project we have. And maybe the website's a start, and that pamphlet, which I've got some more information on a different one. East Granby puts out a nice pamphlet. I want to find out prices for that, and so I think we have some work to do in the outreach area. Okay, further discussion on Chair Balch. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Jason?
Opposed?
Can I point out something?
Yeah.
The Charter Revision Study Committee has meetings scheduled through June 26th. That's their last meeting.
Okay.
Just so you know what's going on.
Yeah, I think though, we'll see how it goes, but I think in the, I'd have to review it, but for some reason, I think we said that they would end in April, end of April, beginning of May. I don't know what the motion said.
June 26th. I believe.
Did the motion say that? Okay. Okay. So now, 250th.
So last Saturday was our blood drive. We had 29 donors, which is going to help and save lives at 87 different hospitals. So I just got that email
Good.
from the woman in charge of the Red Cross. So I just wanted to read that. Other than that, we have our Kids Winterfest coming up on April 24th.
February.
Yep, February 24th. We were just talking about April. And then that will be at Scout Hall from 1 to 4. And then in March, on the 10th and 11th, is the home show in the old Walmart Plaza. So we will have a booth there. Those are our two big upcoming things that we will be at. So
What's the objective of the booth at the home show?
to get the word out, get donations, sell merchandise, money.
How are you doing on fundraising?
It's slow. We're starting to reach out to people now that we have kind of more set amounts for certain events. So we're trying to reach out again now that the new year has started. So that's where we are.
How much do you currently have in the bank available for?
Give or take about 13,000. So we're starting to prepare what we need to do with it and to write the checks that we've already allocated, like to the baseball team and the reenactment group. So
Is it going up or going down?
going up slowly.
Okay, that's good.
We haven't been spending much because we have plenty of merchandise to choose from. So slowly going up.
Good.
So
What do you think will be the biggest event for all of this?
the East Windsor Heritage Day, which will be September 22nd.
That's the parade?
Yep.
What are you gonna
The
have
parade, fireworks, cookout.
Okay.
Yep.
Have you put any numbers to what that's going to cost the committee?
It's really hard to determine, but some of the people that we would like to have in the parade, like Shriners, the Corvette Group, and other organizations require a donation of at least $500 or more. So we're kind of picking and choosing who we can actually afford and who's going to make it worth it. So we're kind of still going through that process now and trying to find out other numbers of what it's going to cost to shut the road down for police and for everything else. So
The Shriners, for example, would come for $500 or something?
yes, they would come for $500, and then they would have a booth or like a little display with the little cars and everything for a few hours during the actual event. So
That's a rather...
and then basically the $500 donation is, it'll cover their expenses to get to our location for the parade, and then everything else will be donated. So it's totally worth it in our eyes to do that.
No, you have surrounding school bands?
We're contacting them currently. Our goal is to get surrounding schools, bands, fire, anything that we can think of. So
Okay. That's good.
Is that the weekend of the Fort-Town Fair?
I think it's, the
The weekend
weekend is
after?
before for the Fort-Town Fair. I think that's how it is.
So you're gonna be competing at the Big E, but only the Big E. And Connecticut Days during the week anyway.
Right.
So that shouldn't be a huge issue.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think it's the week before for the Fort-Town Fair. I hope.
The week after.
The week after?
I think it's the week after.
You think that the celebration
22nd.
is the week after the Fort-Town
Yeah.
Fair?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I think Paul's right.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think it-
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, the casino. I went to the Board of Finance meeting last night and passed out, and I'll pass it out to you. We're forever changing this very short ordinance that basically establishes the fund. So,
Yep, got him. Think we're all set.
and what I'll also pass out to you is an email from our auditor, Mike Venter. He was queried about what should be in the fund. So,
I saw that.
okay, maybe it's in the package, I'm not sure.
What did I do there? One.
Just, you give me just the one. And that'll do it.
So at the bottom of Mike's email, he said to establish it, you need to have a reason to establish it, and he gave examples, and he left blank, so he said, a special town fund is hereby created and shall be designated as the blank, and it's Casino Impact Fund, which shall be a separate fund of the town. All sums received by the town of East Windsor shall be deposited into this fund. And we have more specifics in our ordinance. And then the second part, he says, that you need to have a reason to do it, a use. You need a purpose for the fund. And he says, upon appropriations made in accordance to the law, including the town charter and this article, the monies in the fund, including any interest earned thereon, may be expended for the following purposes only. And so what we did, or I did, in this charter ordinance was add the two sentences to this initial sentence that establishes the fund. And I said the monies in the Casino Impact Fund, including any interest earned thereon, shall be expended to ensure that the casino has a positive impact on the town of East Windsor. The process by which the funds from the Casino Impact Fund will be requested and approved will be specified in a subsequent ordinance or ordinances. So that's where we are now. It doesn't mean it can't be changed, but and then when I was at the Board of Finance meeting, there were a couple of comments there by individuals. One person on the Finance Board said that there should be not multiple ordinances, but one ordinance that was all inclusive. So, and I heard that opinion from you, Jason, I think, too. And then another person who was in the audience was more specific. He felt it also should be one ordinance, and it should have in it a cap of $6 million. It should follow the funding. It should specify the funding, and it should follow the charter. It should say that it goes to the requests go to the Board of Selectmen and then the Board of Financing and to a town meeting. So those are more feedback to this. So things to consider. Any comments? Thoughts?
I still like the two ordinance method. I think the first one is very simple. I do not think that our voters would have any problem accepting this It's just opening a bank account is all it's doing. And I think we can explain that in a concise manner so that people understand that's all they're voting on. There'll be more complexity, no matter how simple we try to make it, for allocation of funds. And that's okay. But I would personally like to open a checking account. And I think this does it. And of course, we'll have to run it through our legal firm.
Right, exactly. Any further comments? Sure.
Yeah, I think, directionally, this is correct to do it like this. Comments about the cap on the fund. As I'm sitting here tonight, I think it's too early to say we should have a $6 million. I don't know if some of these things will be in year 4 or 5 that will accelerate, and then we don't have the money. I think we can always change that and add that ordinance that once it reaches, I think until we have a better feel and sense for what the demands will be.
Yeah, and I felt the same way you did. I was thinking about it, I said, well, we get $3 million upfront payment, and then when it opens, we'll get another $3 million. So that's $6 million, and certainly we're going to spend a lot of that. So I don't think we have to worry about the cap for the first several years, really. So, and that'll give us plenty of time to understand the situation better. And if we do feel we want a cap, we can certainly change an ordinance or put it in. So
If there is a cap, I think a couple of years of experience beyond the opening of the casino will give us a better insight as to where the cap should be if we want to have one. And there may be a good need for it, but I agree with Charlie. We don't know where we are today, and we don't know what the demands are going to be. And so I believe that it is better to leave it open today and consider it later. Ordinances are changeable, and we can change it if there's excess money, we can change it and put a cap on it once we have better understanding.
And Sarah, I noticed you went, go ahead.
Sarah Muska, 25 Maple Avenue. I am the board member on the Board of Finance who said there shouldn't be multiple ordinances, simply for the fact it's very confusing to the public, to the voters, to keep calling for a town meeting. If one ordinance passes without the other, you're basically at square one. You can establish the fund, then you're going to create another ordinance, and that doesn't pass. You're starting over again, in my opinion. And also, I don't recall a public comment last night with what you said that a gentleman said about a 6
You might be right. I think he came to me
that.
after the meeting and said that.
Oh, okay.
He did go to you
Yeah,
after
because
the
I
meeting.
didn't recall that in public participation.
He also said that, he said one reason you should have it all in an ordinance is because people don't trust what you're doing. And so, well, that could be true. I said, well, okay, we'll establish this bank account or this fund, but we don't trust what you're going to do with it, so we don't want to establish it. So,
But we have to make clear
Yeah.
that we can't do anything with it until there is a methodology for expending the money.
Yeah.
And I know what you're saying about a single ordinance would be nice, but there's nothing wrong with opening a checking account before you decide how you're going to spend money. We all do that in our personal lives. Before you go up and buy a new car, you better have money in the checking account someplace. So I don't think it's 6 of one and half dozen another. I think it's 60-40 or 75-25. I think this would be relatively easy to make people understand and have them accept it. I think the next one is going to require more understanding, and we really should have some place to put the money. And, it isn't a tomorrow kind of thing. The Indian nations are a substantial time away from the time they would give us the first $3 million. But I'd like to have it in place.
So let's say that we pass something like this, and then we pass something else that tells you whatever the parameters are for how and what you can spend any potential funding from the Tribal Alliance on. And then for whatever reason, this enabling ordinance gets repealed.
And how would that happen?
That through the Board of Selectmen and the town meeting. So, the same way you would repeal anything. But the wisdom of that aside, that could happen by doing this in 2 different pieces. And then, or 3 or 5 or however many pieces there are going to be. As soon, if you have things, and this is to Sarah's point, but if you have things in such a way so that they're dependent upon each other, and one of those pieces gets removed, the whole house of cards starts falling down. My reasons for supporting that are similar to Sarah's, but I've seen that happen in the legislature every single year, where actually it's DOT in particular will pass one bill the whole session. And the reason being is because they know that in order to get the one bill that there's one bill that must pass, and so they load all kinds of different things onto it that may be more controversial or maybe more politically heated, but they know that that one bill is substantial, and they know they need to get that. It's called a Christmas tree or an aircraft carrier. And the reason that they do that is because it's successful, and that their agenda may not be, they may not be able to put their legislative agenda in place absent that as a technique. And I think the same thing could very well happen here, especially with how contentious this has become.
I don't understand why you think having one ordinance would be different than having 2.
Because you need the one.
What do we need the one for?
Because if absent the one, well, I suppose you don't actually need it, but then it's just money all goes into the general fund and into the black hole.
But if you take away that first ordinance, it would all go in the general fund too.
Correct. That's my point.
That's my point too.
I don't think we're saying the same thing.
Maybe yes, maybe no. What I'm saying is any ordinance can be changed, and any ordinance can be, as you said, gotten rid of. We can get rid of any ordinance that we make to put the money in a separate fund.
So, but I see now where we're not connecting. If you have one that is contingent upon another for both of them to work, and you change one, that impacts the one that you're not necessarily intending to affect. So it's the law of unintended consequences.
Yeah, but that one you have in front of you is the linchpin. You take that away, you lose it all. So that's like having one ordinance.
No, that's not how I read it. So for example, the last sentence is questionable to me. The process by which funds from the CIF will be requested and approved will be specified in a subsequent ordinance or ordinances. So is that clause intended to enable whatever comes next, and that thereby if you take that out, or this ordinance gets repealed and the account is already established, which is what you're asking to do, if you establish the account and then repeal the ordinance, including that clause which allows for control of the account to be determined through subsequent ordinances, does it still work? I don't know the answer to that.
No, if you repeal that ordinance, you end the fund. It would have to.
Why?
Because the auditor said the only way you can establish the fund is to have an ordinance that does it, that establishes the fund. And the ordinance has to do 2 things. It has to establish the fund, and it has to say what it's going to be used for.
So is there a distinction between establishment and management? You know,
I would think so.
I would think so too. So thereby repealing this wouldn't necessarily eliminate any said fund as established.
Except you don't have any money.
That's not true. We're still looking at it.
Well, it would go into the general fund, you have to sort it out of that.
Well, I think
Why does it say
maybe
that repeal would close the account? All it says is establish it. It doesn't say establish and maintain in perpetuity.
Well, okay, that's a good question.
All I'm asking is questions.
Yeah.
I don't really care how this ends up, but it's a question.
Yeah, that merits an answer.
I have a couple others. The second sentence, the monies in the casino impact fund, including any interest earned thereon, shall be expended to ensure the casino has a positive impact on the town of East Windsor. What does that mean?
That means that it would have a positive impact on the town of East Windsor, and that is open to question, but what I think the procedure of how we approve and distribute the funds and request the funds will determine that. And I think if even with the person who made the suggestion, the Board of Selectmen, which is why we're talking about it, the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finance, and a town meeting, if you had a process which you could have requests and put the request to the town to vote on, then what the town felt would be a positive impact on the town would be voted on and approved. And if they didn't feel it was good, then they would not approve it. So it would give the voters a decision to make on how they felt those funds could be used to improve the town.
So you think the second to last sentence is actually supplanting the last sentence, which is determining how the money would be requested and approved? That's what
I think
heard you
it
say.
certainly I think it gives direction to the second sentence. Gives direction to the third sentence. You can't make an ordinance to approve or to request and approve the fund that wouldn't allow for the casino impact fund to be used in a way to positively impact the town. So.
So what is an example of what an acceptable use of that funding would be?
Well, obviously, for the casino to successfully impact the town, or whatever does it say here? Get the right words.
Positive impact.
Okay, positively impact the town. You would have to eliminate the negative impacts. You can't positively impact the town if you have negative impacts. So police would be one.
That's a positive or a negative impact?
A positive impact would be eliminating any negative impacts that casino brings with it. And we're not having to determine that, but we do know that if there's more people in town, then the more people you have, the more police you probably need for traffic accidents, and we're not sure of what else. But so I think the police, public safety is an important impact that it would have on the town. Now, just other impacts it could have would be something. It might be human services. There might be some problems with human services. There might be some problems with housing. We don't know the details, and other people have said that the roads over time might need to be repaired because there's more traffic on the road. So those are my examples that come to my head right now.
So just taking that, kind of flipping the coin, what would be examples under this ordinance, what would be examples of unacceptable uses?
An unacceptable use. In other words, you're making it hard for me.
Well,
no, this is why.
Can I take a shot at that?
Yeah.
An unacceptable use would be to allow some town commission or department to overspend and add too much manpower to their staff. You got to prevent that from happening. That's incumbent upon ourselves. It's incumbent upon the finance committee. So you could wastefully spend this money. You know, one of the things, Jason, that I've been lobbying for since I've sat on this board is that I really do believe we need an economic development director in our town.
Yes.
The town's going to grow. It's going to grow somehow. You can't have a new large facility like this without growth. If we don't do a good job on that, we're going to look like the area between Huntington Beach, California and Long Beach.
I have no frame of reference for what
Well, I'll
that
tell
is.
you, there's a gas station here.
I know Mexico, Andy.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's worth it, right? You got a gas station here, and you got a Jack in the Box here, and my friend built $1.5 million house
You
here.
mean spot zoning, you're talking about spot zoning.
it was terrible, it's terrible. And it shouldn't be that way, because we can make it so it doesn't happen. And so, an acceptable use of that money would be, I think, to hire somebody smart enough to help us. An unacceptable use of the money would be to ignore that and not do it, and have people come in and, you know, and build whatever they want.
But not spending, so using that as an example, not spending the funding is not an example of an unacceptable use of
It
it.
is right, that's right.
So I'm saying, like, under the verbiage as is before us, what would be an example of using the funding that would be unacceptable according to the proposed ordinance?
Okay, and let me
Let me-
weigh in on that. Go ahead.
Let me just say, you know, I think we're battling over some,
That's a substantial difference.
let me, just listen for a minute. Yeah. Please. Rolling back, you and I had a discussion about this. If we had an independent financial impact study done by somebody from the outside before the negotiations and all the rest of that, that we could tell right now what that's gonna be. We didn't do that. Therefore, it's a guesswork right now. There's suppositions, and I believe anything that is directly related to the casino that has a negative impact, such as, you know, we get more potholes in the road because there's so many more cars, and you do the traffic counts for that. The surrounding towns, they're getting money because of the increase in traffic. So they're gonna have to fix roads, they're gonna have to do something. So I think it's just common sense, what we see as a board, that's why we're here, that this is directly related to, and it could be police, it could be things that I can't foresee, and I don't think you can, because we don't have that data. We haven't put anything like this, nor have they done it somewhere else except down there, but that's very different. No two sites are the same. So I think we look at this, and as we move along, we're gonna get requests from whomever. And some of these things, I don't even know what they'll be. Maybe
So-
it's traffic signals, maybe, you know, there's a lot of things that are just unforeseen.
So maybe I'll make this a little easier then. Would it be an acceptable use or an unacceptable use to fund the Warehouse Point Fire Department? If you don't want that example, I've got a bunch more. So
No, I know you're right. Okay, let,
How about re-siding the Melrose Schoolhouse?
um,
How about redesigning a park in Windsorville? I mean, what's an acceptable use, what's an unacceptable, that's what I'm trying to get at.
okay,
And my point in raising this as an issue is simply that I think that could be more clear.
and what I was gonna say is, that's why I'm passing it out. I pass it out every
Yeah.
meeting.
I'm not trying to kill this, I'm just
No,
trying
and
to
I'm
discuss it,
trying,
'cause I
and
wasn't
I'm
realizing.
saying, I'm passing it out for people to make changes, and every week I make a change, and the reason I put that, I had more in there 2 weeks ago. I said public safety and schools and
Fire protection.
well, I don't know if I said fire protection, but there was, and then you said roads and something, orderly development. So I was adding more and more, and then someone suggested at the last meeting that maybe we should keep it simple. And I tried to make it as simple as I could, so just it would be clear. But what I'd say is, if you can, I think the first sentence kind of has to stay, but, and we have to, as the auditor pointed out, we have to have a purpose for this fund. We have to specify a purpose. And you're good with words, Jason, so definitely cross off those last 2 sentences and put in what you think you're suggesting.
But aside from that, you know, you were asking, would it be acceptable to re-side the schoolhouse in Melrose? The answer is, that would come out of the second ordinance, wouldn't it? We're going to present to the town, these are the things that we have received from various organizations, commissions, and so on in town, and we would allow the voters to say whether that's what they think we should spend money on.
But the purpose is right in that sentence, and it's very clear that in this draft, that it shall be expended to ensure the casino has a positive impact on the town of East Windsor.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? What doesn't it mean? I'm not saying that the funding be used contrary, so that it creates a negative impact on the town, but what would be an example of, and that's why I threw out those issues that almost certainly won't have any adverse impact from the casino. Are maintenance and improvements on those an appropriate use?
No, I would say, no, Jason, this is a one man's opinion, but they are unrelated, and so therefore should not be given consideration out of this impact fund.
I guess, well,
I'd take a crack
It's
at
like
it if you want.
straining,
Yeah, take a
it's
crack
about
at it.
resources, you know, what resources don't we have? And whether that's a fixed resource like cement for the road or something, or it's, you know, over this casino, they start popping up hotels and ran the building, you can't cover it all, so you gotta hire another person to do that. We don't know what that's gonna mean. You know, those kinds of things, the inspectors, the, you know, zoning, those are the things I think that, you know, will be directly, you can see that's a direct impact. They're doing this, and now we have to have more resource to that.
So your intention then, if I understand you, is to say that you'd like to see this used on circumstances that are directly resulted from the casino, not necessarily, yeah, I'll stick with that.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, I'll take a crack at that.
okay, that'd be great. Go ahead.
I just have one quick question. That last paragraph, the way I interpret it, is that if you set that fund using that document and you put the money that you receive into that fund, and then you have the next go round where you put the ordinance out there and what your intent is for the money, and it goes to town meeting and it gets turned down, you now have $3 million sitting into a fund that's already been pre-established, and I'm not sure if that's proper, but it's already been pre-established, sitting there with an ordinance that says that money will sit there until an ordinance passes to say what you're going to use it for. So it's not going to go directly into the general fund. I would check that with an attorney, because that would require then that ordinance gets changed to say if the next phase doesn't go through, then that money will automatically be turned over into the general fund, or it's going to get locked in that line item forever and nobody will be able to use it. And I would like to have a built-in swimming pool at the high school if we're just going
But there,
to do the siding on the Melrose School. I'll take a pool at the high school.
the expenditure are a negotiation, aren't they? You know, we're going to put together another ordinance that says that we will have a methodology for.
And I understand that, but if that document goes to town meeting and it doesn't get approved, and you receive
It
$3
doesn't,
million,
it's not yet.
and it doesn't get approved by the town, you have $3 million that's sitting in a fund that you've already established an ordinance on, it's sitting there. That ordinance would have to be changed then to do something with that money. You just can't automatically roll it over with that ordinance the way it says. That money sits there until the next ordinance.
I think what you're saying is in a sense answering the question. I don't know if we get that far. I think people will decide how they're going to request and approve that money. But if they don't, if for some reason we're not able to create the second, you're right, that the money would go into that, and it might build up. It might build up to the $6 million, but I doubt very much that this town would say, well, we're just going to let it build up and do nothing. They could change that ordinance to take it out. You have to have some faith in the voters of this town to manage their money.
Oh, I lost all faith in the voters of this town a long time ago.
Well, then I'll let you do it, Marie.
You know, just put it out there. And it's not just this town, it's everywhere. You know, when we have criminals sitting on boards and commissions in other town and we've got somebody running for governor, yeah, I've lost all faith.
Okay, Sarah.
No, I just, that sentence about the positive impact on the town, I just think that it needs to be more specific and more clear, because how I interpret that is going to be different than how you interpret that.
That's true.
And also, I feel that the town meeting, the public shouldn't really be deciding where the funds are going. They don't have the area of expertise as far as the police may be concerned, of officers, or, you know, it should be a committee or a group of people that kind of have educated, you know, are educated in the specific areas.
I hear what you're saying, and I think it's probably, that's I guess the first thing is to put it in the fund. That's what we want to do.
Right.
Or at least I think that would pass. I think people would put it in the fund. Maybe not. If they say no, that's fine with me. Hey, we gave it a shot. Maybe we would. After everybody says no, we'll make one last shot at having a big ordinance that says what we can do. But I think what I just finished my thought was that I think probably it'll come down to, in a sense, like we do our budget now. We have a $37 million budget. The town side of it's only about 15 million, but it goes through the Board of Selectmen, and it goes to the Board of Finance, and then it does go to the town. So I think that's not a bad process. We seem to have done all right for 250 years, so.
This is only one man's opinion, but I would like to see it done a little differently than we do our general budget. I would like to have individual line items that the voters can say yes or no on. That's a departure from what we normally do. And it may be stepping in a hole, I'm not sure about that. But you gotta give the people who are gonna vote on this something that's understandable and concise. And I think if you roll it all up into a large budget, we're going to run into the same thing we run into with our general budget, and that is that we vote 3 times and vote it out, and we get a 2%. And there's no 2% in this one here. We've got everything's a negotiation, and I think we have to present things that we believe are necessary in the town for the town's good. To make the impact of the casino positive on us. We present it to the town folks. They say yes or no, and I would do it on a line item basis. If they don't like us having an economic development commissioner or director, so be it.
Well,
If they want to,
just a question. What is an economic development person? And not that I disagree with having to hire one, but what did that have to do with any impact on the casino? It has no impact on the casino. And the way it was sold to the public at the meetings is the impact was going to be any impacts to the school. And look at the minutes of that meeting. It was any impacts to the education system, any impacts to the police department, any impacts to the fire stations. Warehouse Point had a separate paragraph in there on their impacts. That's how it was sold to the town originally. Now to go off and say the impacts now are changed, and they might, you're going to have to prove that. And to say that you're going to have a line-by-line item on a line category in there, that's going to cause for a lot of accounting. So you might want to talk to your treasurer before you go forward with that. But what it's going to do, if you set a budget for each department that may be affected, one may need substantially a lot more money than another, but they can't overspend their line item. I think you can put yourself in a trick box. But you know.
But that's the way budgets should work, aren't they? And that is, if a person signs up to do something for X number of dollars, they should be held accountable for doing that for X number of dollars.
I agree with you, and that's why in the original one is one of the things that I thought was good in there, that even though it got broken down, is that there would be some type of subcommittee formed, and when people send in their requests, they can sit down and see whether it meets the criteria of any subsequent ordinance that's coming along, so that a pool isn't being put into the high school, because that certainly doesn't have any effect on what the casino was doing. Yeah. I just threw that out to be facetious, to use that as an example. That would be a waste. That should be coming out of the town money, the Melrose Schoolhouse. As far as I'm concerned, it's Melrose Schoolhouse, they could come and solicit out of the regular budget.
Agreed.
But the way it was sold to the public, and you want to talk about trust, you got to build that trust back with the public by sticking to what you originally said. Go back to the minutes of that meeting that was held over at the school where people were in there, and how they're thinking.
And I'd like to react to that, though. I agree with what you're saying. And at that meeting, there was a lot of negative. You know, people were saying,
I'm not talking about the town hall meeting where Jason's proposal
No,
was presented. I'm talking about going way back at the beginning.
Way back too.
Okay.
Then we had the police chief there. There were a lot of people saying, oh, the world's going to end if you put a casino in town. And I personally, I don't believe it was. And they were saying all these negative things that would happen. And we said, and I truly believe that if this casino is going to have a positive impact on the town, you can't say it's having a positive impact, but it's having all these negative impacts. You've got to get rid of the negatives first. And if that's what it takes, if we have to spend all $3 million to get rid of the negatives, that's fine with me. You put your house in order first, but then if there's money left over, and you can say, like the economic development, you say, okay, this casino has impacted the town because it's brought a lot of people, hotels or a lot of businesses to our town are coming here because of that casino. And we do have some money left over. The negatives have gone away. We've solved the negative. How can we build the town, if we have money left over? But I agree.
See, I would see that would be a impact now, because that could drive up what you need in Grant Stanley's office, because the casino is bringing in business. I would look at that as being an impact that the casino brought to the town, which is a positive impact. Then Grant could say, well, I'm going to need somebody else to help because now there's more inspections to do, or the fire departments are going to be having to do more inspections than what they were used to, and they may need 2 fire marshals in town rather than 1. I see that as an impact.
Yeah.
And those are all unknowns. I agree with whoever said that. Those are all unknowns.
We got some work to do, basically.
And those
But do write
important
things down.
specifics, aren't they?
Yeah.
Huh?
Those are important specifics, like the impact on Rand Stanley. I agree, this is a big facility. It's more than a one-man gang can probably take care of in building inspection.
The building's not that any bigger than any other building. Well, I mean, it's going to be a little bigger, but I think Rand's office will be able to handle that.
But it's not it is a positive impact that more business comes. It's just a negative impact on the resources. And that's what we're trying to mitigate, so that there's not a bump in the road here. If somebody unrelated to all this wants to build something, he can't go there because he's looking at hotel specs.
Yeah,
I'd
Sarah.
just like to add one more thing. We have a selectman who's not on board with this. Unfortunately, he's not here tonight to engage with us, but that's another thing. I mean, he's going to stack the room and vote it down, and, I just...
Well, maybe yes, maybe no. Maybe he says that, but we'll see. Anyway, we'll see.
So
We got some work to do, but if you can
like to put it
put things in words, that'll help us.
Mhm.
Really, put things in words. And my office is open all the time. You should have my email. Send me an email.
I have a question, Bob, and that is, how do we bring closure to this? We started out with something that was simple. We made it a little more simple, I think, and more general. There are clearly going to be needs in the town that will have to be dealt with by a disposition of funds, an allocation of funds, but that doesn't do this. All this does is open a checking account, and we shouldn't, in my estimation, we shouldn't try to make it do more than what it can do. And we can wordsmith this thing to death, and we can work on it for the next 6 months, and we may make it 1% better, if we're lucky 10% better, but we should move on. And I don't want to show off anybody's ideas, but at some point in time, we got to say, we're going to vote on this thing, and we may be wrong. Hell, the only people who don't have anything wrong, people who do nothing. And that's not what we're here for.
Yeah, I'm in no mistake for 3 years. And I did exactly that.
So at any rate,
Yeah.
that's my feeling.
Yeah, Jason.
So just kind of combining Andy's thought with Sarah's thought, and recognizing that there are groups like Crew who will misrepresent and outright lie about what this is and does. Would it be in our interest to do a public hearing where we're not limited to everybody gets 3 minutes and then you're done, but so that we actually have an opportunity to present chapter and verse what the intentions are, what the actual verbiage turns out to be, what the end goal is, in such a way so that you can dispel any of those misrepresentations that will inevitably and consistently happen?
That sounds like a good idea to me. Yeah, we can do that. We could have it before one of these meetings. However, we can't have it before the next meeting because we have the Board of Finance, and the Board of, well, I will present to the Board of Selectmen. Well, no, actually, I misspoke. On February, well, yeah, it's February 1st. What is it?
It's the Board of Ed.
Yeah, that's right. The Board of Selectmen and the Board of Ed are going to have a public hearing on the budget here before our next meeting. So that,
This might be an interesting time to share that I won't be at the next meeting.
well, then you won't understand what the public wants about the budget. No, I'm just joking.
Well, I agree with you. We need to move along here because,
Yeah.
I had a meeting this past week with Mr. Capiella.
Oh, okay.
And that he brought me up to speed in terms of where they are. And he believes that wrecking ball is very, very soon.
I think so.
That they've got a lot of things moving along. And he said the fencing is going to go up, and then they're going to knock that building down. So what I think is just critical is that we have somewhere to store this money. That it doesn't roll into, you can't leave the money, in on the side of the desk or whatever, and you can't put it into the general fund because that's not what it's intended for. So I just want to get something where we have a bank account, put it in, and let's move on because we don't know, like I said, when and if, what those requests are going to be.
But I think we've also kind of pointed out, we, the four of us and members of the audience have pointed out that this isn't quite a fully baked cake yet. And
Say it again, Jason.
this isn't quite a fully baked cake. There's still some improvements that should be made. And I also would like to make sure that all five of us are here and present to vote on it.
Well, and you said you could wordsmith it.
Yeah, I will. I'll work something up probably over the weekend.
Okay. Yes, Paul.
Paul Anderson, I'd like to make one thought. Instead of trying to do two ordinances, let's get this passed with the intent of amending it before we can spend any money. And then it goes into the same ordinance, not a second ordinance, which obviously would have to be approved, and you still can't spend money unless you approve the amendment. But that's better than two completely independent ordinances. That is better. So that is a possibility. In other words, we need to lock up the money. We're not ready to figure out how to spend it yet. That's really the story.
Yep.
That's right.
I agree.
Yep.
But to figure out how to spend it, amend the existing ordinance to accommodate that when that is available.
Okay.
That's it.
Put that in, can you write that into the,
You wouldn't write that, you'd just do it.
Yeah, you wouldn't want
You
to
don't
write
want
that
to,
in.
you wouldn't codify that.
You
All you
explain
would
it
do-
to people.
Okay,
This is
so-
the intent.
So what you would do is you would take the first sentence and more or less leave it as is. I've agreed I'd offer some thoughts on the second sentence, and then you strike the third one entirely. Pass the first and the two, first and the second.
okay,
And then you come back after passage and amend it with a little more meat on the bone.
sounds
That's
good.
not a bad idea.
That would work for me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Bill Lowe's, North Food. I think if the fence goes up tomorrow, I think the casino has to give us that $3 million.
No,
No.
No?
no, it,
The initial one, upfront payment?
yeah, no, that payment comes 15 months before they open the doors, for
Okay.
they get
The
their,
initial one?
yeah,
Yeah.
certificate of occupancy. And when they, as we're talking about the casino, right now, they actually did come and start talking about permits and the sequence of permits and what they have to do. And I guess the first thing they have to do is get it through the wetlands permit, and then they have to take it to planning and zoning. And so they're starting to think about how they have to start building. But at some point, they're going to come in and ask for a building permit. And when they do that, actually before they start building, I guess Rand's going to send it to the ICC, and International Coding something. It'll take 30 days for them to really do the analysis. So when that plan comes in and they start doing the detailed analysis, that's when we'll start knowing the time it's gonna take them to build it. And then they might say at that point, we're gonna build it in 18 months and this is how we're gonna do it. So then we know from the moment they start building, we've got 18 months, we've got 3 months, and we're gonna get that payment, so.
First one up front then.
Yeah,
So you have to have some place to put that check, you can't put that in the general fund.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's exactly the problem.
Yep.
Yeah, you know, I had a discussion, a fairly long telephone discussion with Mr. Capiello this past week. And I asked him if he would be willing, or have someone come here once a month and tell us, and give us status. And he said he'd be happy to do that. And I think he plans to be here at the next meeting.
yeah, he said either he would be here or Connor O'Hara.
Yeah, yeah, that's what he said. So I think we're gonna be status fairly well. Once a month is certainly adequate, I think, for how it will move along. It'll make me feel better, just knowing what's going on. And I've said before, we have time to do this right, but we should do it. And I like the idea that Paul's, and that is to open the checking account. I don't care whether it's 2 ordinances or 1. 1 is fine with me as long as there's a bank account. And we can decide later who and how we write checks. That's the easier part of the thing.
I just want to see the check come here and it go to the general fund.
And Jim,
Jim Barton, South Water Street. I think this is a good start. I think one of the things that's concerned everybody is the segregation of that 3 million from the 5.5 and the regular general fund and so forth. So I think this is good. I also agree that the statement about just ensuring a positive impact is too general. My thoughts about this whole thing is there's a $3 million and there's a $5.5 million. Now, if a business comes into town, they should expect a certain level of service for their tax money. But if a business comes into town and requires something over and above that, that's what the 3 million is for. So, and somehow we can't decide on that yet because of what I call casino hysteria. And you just talked about it because, you know, casinos coming to town, the world's gonna end and there's gonna be all kinds of negative impacts. We don't really know that. But the guiding principle should be that the taxpayers should pay for what can reasonably be expected to be required to satisfy that purpose. Take the cops, for example. If a business comes in at a certain level that requires you to hire 1 police officer, our tax money, our overall tax money needs to provide that.
Yes.
But if a business comes in and requires 1 police officer plus 1, then they get stuck with the bill for the plus 1. And that's what comes out of the 3 million impacts. That's my understanding. And that goes for police and fire and education and everything else.
And that's what Charlie was talking about. We don't really understand what's going to happen.
We don't. And
And so we should have that fund available to do those kind of things and other things that will make the town better because we have it available.
Well, I think the fund needs to be available, and then, you know, the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance, according to the charter or whatever, is gonna have to make intelligent decisions about how to spend that money. There was no hysteria like this when Walmart went in right across the street, and that's a pretty big operation right there.
takes a lot of police work too to
Yeah,
handle
and
that thing.
They weren't good enough to offer us $3 million out of hand.
Well, they didn't, they only offered it because they have to,
Yeah, I
because of casino
understand.
hysteria.
Okay.
Actually, the treasurer calls it a hosting fee, which is another way to view it. But I think we've made progress tonight,
Well,
really.
where are we then?
I think we're back to 1 ordinance.
Shot at it.
Yeah.
Can you email this to me?
Yes, certainly, yeah.
Then I'll have a draft for you guys to look at in 2 weeks.
in 2 weeks?
Well, for the next meeting.
Okay, yeah, good, excellent. Any further discussion? Anything else that we want to say about the casino?
We should not kill this job of getting this ordinance written. We should go forward with it. If it needs fine tuning, we can do that later. But we should have an ordinance in place.
Okay, and I think maybe later on, we should talk about putting, the specifics of when we're going to present it and how we're going to tell people about it and things like that, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
We'll make that decision at that meeting,
What meeting?
when, the next meeting when you have this.
Okay, all right.
Your try at it.
Okay, well, we'll certainly,
That's the goal.
okay.
I won't be at the next meeting.
To do what?
Well, you're gonna send it to us, though, right?
Yeah.
We'll handle it.
Yeah, you can email it.
Yeah, I can email it.
That'd be great.
I'll be your vote.
Well, we'll see.
You will not be here to vote, you said?
I'm gonna be in Washington.
Next time. Well,
State of the Union, man, special guest.
Oh, great.
Totally made that up. I will be in Washington.
let me say something.
Me too.
Jason should be here for the vote.
Okay,
And if he can't be here for the next one, and if he's willing to take a shot at rewriting the bottom of this ordinance, there's no reason we couldn't get together with a special meeting
absolutely.
to sit down when he's available and nail this thing and say, we're done, let's have the legal firm look at it and let's get going.
Okay, yeah,
Sound okay?
sounds good.
When can you have the email to us?
Not tonight, but.
We'll give you the weekend.
Yeah, I need to, I
Monday,
document
Monday.
it first, but.
Need Steve to-
You're still on vacation
Yeah,
time.
yeah, we need a full board, yeah.
He's sick. I really think we should consider that.
Okay,
Jason should be here for the,
I
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Thank you, guys.
Right. Okay, if there's no more discussion, we'll go on to new business. And that's boards, commissions, committees, and councils vetting. And Andy gave us his thoughts, and he wrote them down pretty precisely. So maybe, Andy, could you just talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, I can. On a scale of 1 to 10, having a vetting process is probably a 2. It is not the most important thing we have to get done. The urgency of it is not high because we've survived for a long 250 years without having it, probably. But I do believe that there should be some standard kind of a process by which we bring volunteers on board. And it kind of goes to the fact that it starts out, let me find the thing here. I had it, I really did.
You've done that before too. Oh, that's not what you're looking for.
So let me talk from memory.
Here's.
What do you have? Okay, thank you. The town runs by professionals running the town. However, they can't do it alone. It's really important that we get good people as volunteers to help out. I have an example of one, me. I joined the Economic Development Commission, I think, without the knowledge of the chairman. I think that's wrong. I filled out no application, no resume. I filled out an application. I was asked by the first select lady to be a member of it, and I'm enthusiastic about that kind of thing. But the only thing I did is fill out an application. The only thing that Sheriff Walsh did today is to fill out an application. They didn't know whether I was qualified to do that job or not. And I think that that's wrong. I think that there are two things that have to be done. I think that we have to advertise in our website that we're looking for volunteers. I would love to have a standing army of people who are willing to help out in town when we need it, instead of having commissions and boards that go 2 or 3 people short. Right now, I think on Economic Development Commission, there are a couple of people down right now.
Got some
And
alternates we could put in.
And I think we should take out an article in the Journal Enquirer telling what we're all about, that we're looking for volunteers. And we should actually write up a description, a job description, for each one of the commissions and committees that we're setting up in town. I said in here that there should be, we should develop a charter for each one of the committees and commissions, so they know what they're all about. In the Economic Development Commission, after being with it for a year and a half, I was surprised to know there really is a pretty damn good charter for that commission. But I wasn't given that the day I came on board and didn't know it existed for a year and a half. And I think that was a wrong process. There should be a review committee, and I wrote review committee, and that really doesn't have to be, Charlie pointed out that it could certainly be the Board of Selectmen, but there should be somebody who reviews the qualifications of the people who are coming on, we would like to have come on board. They should write a resume. I'm not talking about a 3 or 4 pager, I'm talking about a 1-page document that tells what their interests are, what their background is. It's something that anyone can generate in a half an hour or an hour, and it deserves that. When we have those things, we should screen those resumes and try to put the round pegs in the round holes and the square pegs in the square holes. Someone may say, you know, I'd like to be on the Economic Development Commission or Planning and Zoning, and they may have no real qualifications for it, and so it may well be a wasted slot to do that. And I think that if we're going to have people be interviewed to understand their qualifications, we should have a standard set of questions that we have for these people. It should be apples and apples always. If we make it apples and oranges, we're not going to know where we are. And we should have the courtesy to notify the applicants as to whether they are a successful candidate for the committee or commission that they are applied for, and if they aren't, that we would like to have them, because of their background, consider another one and tell them whether they're on hold or whether they are one that's been selected to serve. And we should create a list of people who are available so that we can go forward rapidly when there are openings in the organizations. That's kind of what I put together. And I think something like that should be done so that the process is standardized and we do it over and over again and get a good result.
I agree with Andy. I think this is a big step in terms of where we are, but it's an important step. And I think think that the purpose behind this is not to screen people out, but to get people interested to come in. Because without volunteers in a town, you know, it makes it really difficult to get all the things done that has to be done. In looking what Andy has here, you know, define the goal of each organization, you know, maybe defining what the purpose is of the committee, the specific committee, you know, whether it's economic or whatever, what is their purpose? And I think that I was on the Economic Development Commission, you get onto these boards and then you walk in, you really didn't have but maybe a supposition of what it is. And I think for the people that are on there to put something, to get very brief, so that when people look on a website, you know, geez, I might want to do something and, you know, to be on one of the boards or commissions, and you can get to see, you know, when is the meeting? What's the duration of the meeting? I can't be there, you know, 3 days a week kind of thing, but then they start to fill in, you know, their spaces of what it is that's good for them. And then you get, you know, a briefing as to what their background is, and you might look at that and say, you know what, from our experience, this person probably would be good over here, and you talk with them. But it's about getting people really interested in the participation of government, which is really, really important today. You know, we're not getting a lot of people, you know, we're short, but we haven't done a good job of saying what this is about. And I think what Andy has put together is giving us that leverage to start in that direction and do that.
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said here. And what I'm thinking about is how to implement it. And I'm going to expand a little bit more because we don't have it on this agenda, but we talked about planning. And I don't think we've gotten that, our hands around that either. So I think I would ask that people are interested, and I know you guys are, to come see me. And if you could, or meet with yourselves, but come see me too. We can put some flesh on that, just like you were talking about. Just listening to you, I realized that I was thinking, how are we going to do this? How are we going to get the charter for the boards and say what they're about? Well, I realized then that we could go to the boards. You could go visit a board and say, this is what we'd like you to do. So we have a representative. One of us goes to the board, and we could write emails to them saying, we really want to define what we're going to do. And we could, with the new website, we'll be able to put videos, short videos on, and we could interview. So that we can do a lot of things, but we kind of have to think about that. And if you leave me in my office, I'm not going to think about it. I'm going to answer the phone. So we should set some time aside, sit down, and give more specifics to what we're trying to do.
Andy and I talked about this, you know, and certainly expand on this and put something in some format here for everybody to take a look at. This is not hard. This is not going to be complex. And it's just getting things in an order that will be meaningful more for the reader. That, yeah, this sounds like I could do that those nights, and, you know, I'd like to get involved and start getting.
So like I say, if the three of us get together, that's a meeting.
Yeah.
So, but we can have special meetings. So if you tell me a day or two in advance that you want to get together, then you're certainly invited too, Jason. But these guys are kind of retired. So, but we can put some flesh on the ideas and make some details, and then certainly copy you in and let you know. But we can start going instead of just talking about it. So.
My 2.5 cents on this is first, under methodology, the notion of advertising commission and committee personnel on the town website, and either doing letters to the editor or an article or an ad in the JI. I think that's a no-brainer. We need to be asking people to get involved because people are not asking themselves to get involved. So that's a great idea. Creating an interview committee, I am really starting to become committee to death, and I think that more committees is not the solution to filling the existing committees, just because we have like 15,000 committees, and we have committees to look at committees.
How would you pick the people or interview them?
Well, so that's the other thing. So the charter does specifically give the sitting selectmen the power to appoint to existing boards and personnel. The way that I do it is when we have an applicant who is included in our packet and I don't know them, I call their references. I actually take the 20 minutes to pick up the phone and call the people they said know them best and ask them. I admittedly have not done that for a little while, but we haven't had new, there was one new person who was brought before us who I did not know, but I knew the other applicant and was going to vote for them. So I actually do take the time to screen the people who are included in our packets. That's not to say that everybody has to do that, that's just what
It's a good
makes
idea.
sense to me. And I appreciate the diversity of people's professional experience and the talents that can bring to it, but there's also some of there's other considerations, frankly. Character is a big thing, and I come back to crew, and those people, in my estimation, have spent a decade or more intentionally misleading people. I'm not going to vote for them, regardless of whether or not there's a CPA who's applying for the treasurer's position, because they're dishonest, and I'm not comfortable doing that. So I'm not sure what the end result from our perspective is, unless it's to solicit more applicants. I'm not sure what the end result is in terms of guiding our appointments, because quite frankly, I am satisfied exercising my authority under the charter. That's where I'm coming from.
Well, the end game is to get.
If you're trying to grow the pool, I get
more
that.
qualified
Yeah, that's-
people in a pool where we've had a chance to talk to them in advance and make up our minds as to whether they are qualified to do the job on a certain commission. And I agree, committees are only as good as they function.
Yes.
In the business I was in, I oftentimes, in the space systems department, it was a small department, I had 1,000 people. There wasn't
It was a small department, you had 1,000 people.
there wasn't a chance for me to get in and dig into the details of a problem. So I would pick people of known talent, and I would say, I want you 5 guys to go out and get the facts and come back to me in 2 weeks and tell me what the right move is. And it worked.
But you also had those people who are working 50 hours a week.
They were. No, I agree with you.
Distinction here. We're
I
working 5.
agree, I agree. And so maybe we can't be quite so rigorous here, but I think the methodology still applies. The fact that you might not want to have someone from crew be on the thing is an issue of personality and preference and
Character.
and knowledge of what people do. But so rather than having you or Charlie or I be able to say yes or no on a person, I believe you have to have a committee. And I don't know what that means. I don't know what kind of committee you need here in the public sector. I needed a committee of people who I could trust to give me the right information, because the bottom line was that I had to make a decision that committed the company to do something which might cost a lot of money, and so I needed that information. Now, we need some of that rigor here. We may not need it all.
So the only other point that, and I agree, this conversation is a good one. Some improvement in the number of applicants is a great thing. I agree that this is probably a 2 on the scale. But the other thing that, so I have a bachelor's degree in political science, worked towards a master's degree in public administration. I've worked in state government for 13 years. And if you were to ask me to be on the Charter Revision Commission, I would say no. Even though academically and professionally, I'm actually well suited. However.
And the reason would, just as a matter of interest, the reason would be?
Practically because you can't do it as a sitting selectman. But if you were to ask me to be.
But if you were not a selectman, would you do it?
It would depend greatly on who else was on there, to tell you the truth. And frankly, the people who were appointed, I don't want to spend any time with. But as another example, though, the Agriculture Commission, I don't have any degree. I had some professional experience, but I'm interested in that. My resume wouldn't look like I'd be an ideal fit for that, but that'd be something I would enjoy doing.
But that's
The
what,
250th Celebration Committee is another example. There's nothing on in my professional curriculum vitae that would indicate that I'd be a good fit for that. But that's a good group of people who are working on a cause that I actually think is pretty interesting. So assigning people to commissions based on qualifications is also something that's a little, there needs to be some subjectivity.
but you have to have some baseline.
You also have to have applicants.
And you gotta have applicants.
Yeah, which is what you're trying to get at, and I applaud that. And
That's mainly what
the
this
bit.
is,
Yep.
Jason, so that we create some spirit with people that.
I'm
I
not a
like-
no vote on this.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, like,
yeah, I know. I'd like to do it, and I get what you're saying, but, we're just kind of dry with people, I think.
Yes.
And that it doesn't come to their mind in the morning to do this. There's nothing that flashes out there that, and I think the key will be the website, because everybody's, as you know, utilization of the internet. And if we can get something there that makes it, that it's likable, that I'd like to do this, and they have some information, I think that's the long and short of this.
Yeah, that's good.
And I think we have to be salesmen,
Well, we should be anyway.
Yeah, if, the committee, whatever it is.
This board should be encouraging anybody you know
Yeah, I
to step
agree.
forward and offer what you can.
Yeah, I agree. We should reach out to people we know by name and what we know of their ability and say, would you please do it? I have not done that. I've thought of it, not since I've been here, but when I was on the Economic Development Commission and on the Planning and Zoning. I never did reach out, but I should have, because I knew some people who might be qualified. And we should not ignore that. You know good people, Charlie knows good people, I know good people, Bob knows good people, Steve knows good people. We should make a campaign to go out and talk to those people and say, hey, look, we could really use some help in town. And then cap it off with the Journal Inquirer thing and putting it on the website or whatever. But we should advertise that we are looking for good people.
We want you.
We want
Start
you.
spending with that.
Yeah, right.
Uncle Sam got a
Gonna
poster
get
that way.
you, gonna get that big hat.
Make squares.
Okay.
Enough?
Enough.
Okay.
We'll go down to the added agenda item, which is the Charter Revision Study Committee, and it needs a secretary.
Did you skip
missed
over
one.
approval tax refunds?
Next one.
No, tax refunds always come last.
Well, it's B on the agenda.
Well,
B.
it's true, it's B, but now it's C. And
That's
and
not how
B
the agenda
is
was
the, okay, you want to do the revision?
She does have you on a
No,
relatively
not-
good point.
Sorry, Bob, but it's written down, you already approved the agenda, so.
Well, I know, but I said it would be B, actually, but that's okay. So we can approve the tax refunds. So I would entertain a motion to approve the tax refund of $782.15.
8,700.
Okay, you're right. Are you making that motion, Jason?
No, I don't do that. I don't do that on these. I've never done one on these.
Go ahead for it.
No, I'm good. I got a streak going. I like the streak. These guys can handle it.
All right. I will move that we approve the tax refunds for $8,782.15. Is there a second?
I second that.
Okay, is there any discussion?
Just looking to see if my name's on
Keep wishing. I check every 2 weeks. Mine hasn't shown up.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now we'll go on to the last item, which is the Charter Revision Study Committee. And I did hear about it. I guess they had, and Charlie, you were there, I guess. So somebody said that there was 23 ideas, not all of them very good, but at least
there. Right.
they're brainstorming. So we do need a secretary. So I'll move to approve funding for a secretary for the Charter Revision Study Committee, not to exceed $1,250.
Recording secretary.
Recording secretary. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion.
What's the hourly rate we're paying?
Well,
For the meeting rate?
The meeting rate, we figured there's 10 meetings, and the most we pay is 125. So that's why I said not to exceed, but we'll try to get as reasonable one as possible. And I don't think that it's necessary to have as detailed a recording as Peg does, or we do for, so I think we could get one for less money, but I don't think I want it. I think I'm not going to quibble over a few $100s at this point.
And why wouldn't one of the members serve in that capacity and save the town the $1,200?
No one has volunteered, no one seems to want to be able to do that. I guess they're thinking, I'm not recording.
So there are numerous examples of boards and commissions that we don't pay a recording secretary for. And they have members who do it themselves. And if, in the absence of the members stepping up to do it, it's the chairman's responsibility to make sure that happens. Actually, Rebecca's is an example of that. She has an unpaid recording secretary. I think Veterans has, for a long time, had an unpaid recording secretary. Just doesn't seem, I don't know, I'm not sure why we're spending money on something that's studying whether or not we should be considering studying something. What this
you have a right to express your opinion. I might say that we are going to spend, when we do have that charter revision committee, that's very important that we get that recorded, because those are decisions that are going to affect that. This is just helping us to focus on the charter. But I made the motion, Charlie seconded it. Is there any further discussion? Any?
No, I'm all set.
Okay, so all those in favor?
Aye.
So we're going to have motion passes.
I'm opposed.
Okay.
Ask a question.
All right. Steve's not here, so Andy, you're up.
There has been no meeting of the Economic Development Commission since the last meeting. Their meetings are scheduled for the third Thursday of the Monday, rather, of the month, and I'll report back next time if they have a meeting. Once again, they have not met since July.
Okay. Jason.
So I spent the last 2 weeks sitting by the pool in Mexico, not missing anybody. And but before that, I did go to the, if this was already reported on, I apologize, but I went to the 250th New Year's Eve Winter Gala, or no, the Masquerade Ball, which was awesome. That was a huge success, and well attended, a great night, and a good way to kick off the year. I did not go to the New Year's Day hike, because it was one of those days where it was...
It was 10.
Was it 10 degrees? Got up to 10? Double digits? Yeah, I was thinking about Mexico. So I just wanted to congratulate you guys on a great kickoff, and looking forward to a good year ahead. Also, the Abby's Helping Hand Winter Gala is coming up
February 17th.
February 17th, that's going to be at Manili's. It is always a good event. They raise good money to help local charity, to help families of people who are affected by mitochondrial disease. It's always worth going and supporting the efforts that they do. That's on the 17th. I won't see you guys before that. So.
Okay. Charlie.
I don't have anything tonight.
Okay. Couple things I'll pass out. I said to you I'd start dribbling budgets out, so especially for the new members, so they can take a look at what we're going to have. So I'll pass these down. Take two. There's two here. Town clerk and
Assessor?
assessor.
So it's a package deal.
No package deal. And
Thank you.
I don't think it's necessary to go through them at this time, but you can just take them. But what I want to pass out is the budget schedules. And again, And what I did is highlight a line in there. Actually, it starts with February 6th. And there's 5 budget meetings here that are scheduled for us. And Janet is going to start scheduling the departments to come in for these dates. So it's very important that if you can't make one of these dates, or if we can't hold a budget meeting, let me know, because we're going to start asking people to come and schedule their time for these dates. So if we can't make it, then not only does it affect us, it affects the departments.
So I think I told you before, but I cannot make the 6th to the 20th.
Okay. And so, and maybe, Jason, if there's particular departments you want to schedule for the days you're here?
Or the days I'm not here?
Either one.
I could go
Yeah,
down
I know there's.
easier. No, really, seriously.
Seriously.
I've been through 11 of these now, so there's some that's like, this is automatic. I'm
Okay,
good.
let me know. Give me an email and let me know how you want it scheduled.
All right. How many do you want to do a night? How many departments do you want to do a night, just so I get a sense?
Well, and I think that varies on the scope of the budget that they have. Like the 2 I passed out are pretty simple. We can schedule a lot if they're that short for a night. But the police are going to take quite a while. I imagine Public Works will take quite a while. And there might be others. So some will be more than I see Lori over there. God knows how long she'll take. And planning and zoning, I think, so it depends.
Okay. I'll send you a want to be here and a don't want to be here
All right.
list.
Yeah. Okay. And another thing, I'll pass this out too, and at the Board of Finance meeting last night, the auditor came, Mike Van Deventer, and this is a view of a slideshow he didn't, it was just, it is a PowerPoint, I guess, but he just talked about it. And it's an overview. I don't have any copies for the audience, but on the website now is a very detailed 93-page audit report. And so that is all the information you could possibly want. So I would say go on there. You have the website. We changed the website. We're working on it. If you want to give us any feedback, it's getting there. I have some changes I want to make, a little, just minor, but another thing is the dam. The water's flowing over the dam now, so in a sense, it's complete. In the spring, they're going to do just landscaping and cleaning up, but it's pretty much done. And then the middle
Why
school.
do they have the plastic over the north face of the north-facing wall?
I don't know.
They're heating that, I'm sorry.
They're taking everything down.
They're heating that because they're parging it.
They're wanting everything, what?
Yeah, but they were heating it because they were parging it,
Parging?
Parging?
yeah,
What is parging?
doing the joints of the stone,
Oh,
filling in the cracks of the
So
stone.
they're regrouting.
They're regrouting it, yeah.
Regrouting it.
Parging.
Is that also really true of the south wall?
I don't know, I just happened to see Joe down there the other day, and he told me that's what's going on.
Will that work go on during the winter?
I think they're all done,
Oh.
they're all done, that they had to heat it to keep it warm for a couple days.
Okay.
and actually, Len said that they did a great job. He'd recommend them to anybody. He thought it was a great job. Easy working with them. On the other hand, the middle school roof, it's about, they tell him that they have 5 more days of work to do. And he's trying to say, well, when are these 5 days? Because they don't seem to be doing it. But it's just, everything's done. It's just the fascia and the trim that it's more looks now than functional. But they're almost done, 95% or so. And that's my report. So, And public participation.
So before you move on, can I ask a question about the audit?
Yeah.
I'm thumbing through, and I haven't, maybe I just missed it, but do you know what the undesignated fund balance stands at currently?
I think it's I think it's 21.7%, and I think it might be $8 million. Is that correct?
I was looking at Sarah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Do you know where the fund balance is after the most recent audit? There's a test later.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I do know it's at 21.7.
Okay.
So
I'll find it.
well, it's here at page 9.
Page 9.
So it's 21.6.
%.
Yeah, or 2.6
Oh,
months.
you're right, it's 8.1. You're right, it's right there.
Okay, Sarah.
I'm just curious, where is the money going to be coming from for the new recording secretary for the Charter Revision Study Committee?
We may leave that up to the Board of Finance.
Okay.
But initially, I think it'll come from the Selectman, my office, but I think we're going to run short toward the end of the year. And I think there's a number of, as we discussed last night, and he brought it up, the fund balance is sufficient, so we might consider using some of that money to do just this. Another thing we're considering is doing some renovation to the annex in the sense of putting Parks and Rec into we're part of the gymnasium there. So that's something that we have to consider. That would probably, we haven't gotten into details, but it could be, might be $20,000. But there's other things that are expenses, small expenses coming up that we could do a supplemental appropriation for that would help, and we kind of needed it. And another place would be if we're short on funds somewhere, the contingency fund is something that at the end of the year we might tap into. And now I think of another thing that's and we're going to talk about it a little. We're, no question about it, we're going to overspend our legal expenses this year. So that's a problem, and we have to work on that. So we're looking at the fund balance a little bit. Further public, yes?
Yeah, just purging is absolutely what he said. I was Googling it when he used it because I didn't know what that word was, but it's like a stucco, it covers all the
Okay.
blemishes on the wall.
I'll forget it.
But the reason I came here tonight, because I saw on the website that you were going to do a vetting process. I didn't realize it was what you guys put out there. But I think if you put the application that goes out to people to fill out, you could add some things in there for credentials. But I would keep in mind if you do that, and I'll use Andy and myself as an example. I'm sure Andy was asked to sit on that board because he does have experience, he does have knowledge, and he can learn things. So maybe he went onto that board and didn't know anything, but I'm sure he's learned something along the way. And there's a lot of people like that. I was asked to sit on several boards, and I had no idea what any of the boards have been over the years, to and including Park Hill. When I was asked, the first thing I did, I went to other towns, people that I knew that were on housing stories, and I sat with them to see what was required before my reputation would be put on the line. If you ask me for college degrees, if you ask me for experience, I have none. Do I think I've done a good job up at Park Hill and the other boards and commissions? Absolutely. No doubt in my mind we didn't do a good job up there. Would I have passed, maybe you guys muster, without those credentials that normally are asked? I just throw that out there. Know the people, sit with them, see what they're capable of learning before you say yes and no. But if you're going to vet, when I come in here, I thought the vetting process was going to be to take a look at those that are coming forth in town to see if they fit on a board and commission. I certainly am not happy on one commission that currently was just recently established. One individual that was put on that committee, I feel is there for self-serving purposes, because publicly in a town meeting, the individual had indicated that he had a use for that building if the town took that building over. That's a preconceived, to me, that's a preconceived yes vote, no matter what is said, and it takes out, in my opinion, it takes out listening to others that are coming in to view that. The other thing is I would hate to have somebody sitting on Planning and Zoning Commission that have been in violation of planning and zoning rules and regulations, and we put them on a committee. Elected officials are different. I guess now any elected official, regardless of their background, they're allowed to run for office, so you really can't do anything about that. But I think on boards and commission, we need to take a look at who we're putting on it. We need to start looking at criminal background. And I don't think that's ever been done, to take a look at criminal backgrounds. And I'll use an example that I've used before. As chairman of the Democratic Town Committee one year, we had people indicating that we had an individual that wanted to sit on a board and commission. Great background from people, only for me to pick up the paper after the ballots were written and found out he was sitting in jail on very serious charges, and then I had to go through the process of having him resign afterwards. So I learned from that lesson, and I think we need to start doing that here. If we're going to have a vetting process, take it the step further, make sure the people that are coming in don't have backgrounds that may come up and interfere with anything that they may be sitting on.
Okay, thank you. Tom?
Tom Dalmy, 23 Rice Road. I agree with Marie, and also you got to keep in mind, it's tough to get a volunteer because there's 8 or 9 people in this audience, and I bet everybody in this audience is on at least one board or commission. I'm going to guess.
Yep.
Everybody in this audience is on a board or commission, basically.
Yes.
So it's not easy finding volunteers
No.
or people that want to get involved.
I haven't been on this board very long, but the same people show up every single meeting. You know,
We have assigned seats.
we've got, we've got more than a dozen voters in town, and you're the only people that show up, and you show up every single week.
And when we were here for POCD, they had a couple great presentations. I mean, a woman come in with a clicker to say what you liked and what you didn't like. And there was basically 11 people here. And I looked at, I think I even said to Jason, I'm voting for 1,000 people.
Yeah.
You know, we got 11,000 people in town, and I'm voting my one vote.
So, you know,
It's a shame. I mean, and you did a great job trying to get people here. I mean, you even offered food. I mean, it just, you know.
People at the warehouse quite well, that was about it.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard to get people to volunteer.
So if we all, not just the board, but if we all put our heads together and try to find people, it'll be better, and maybe we can get those people to be greeters and get some more people.
Greeters. I was thinking of a rope.
Lori?
The one thing that I see lacking in this town, and probably most towns, is the lack of training for commission members. So they may not have a complementary background in wetlands or planning and zoning or political science, but there is training out there that is available for people to go to. It's, you know, some of the training is only one Saturday every other year, but I think I don't know if you could require it, but it really should be strongly suggested that the commission members take these classes and take advantage of that, because that's a, you know, until you do that, you really don't get a good background as to really what you're supposed to be doing.
Is there training across the board for a lot of boards, or is it just inland wetlands you're thinking?
I'm saying all the land use boards, I mean, we've got training for all of them.
Well, that's a good idea.
And, you know, I think that, you know, and unfortunately, we get that line item cut more often than not. So, you know, sometimes there's not even enough funds to send more than one person to a class. But I think that it should be considered as, you know, at least strongly suggested that you do this.
Thank you.
That's my 2 cents.
Worth more than that. Good investment. Paul?
Okay, as chairman of the WPCA, I want to bring some stuff to the table on this vetting concept. I've been there for more years than I can remember, and when I came in, I volunteered, I became an alternate. So I could participate, no vote, but I learned. According to what I hear, I must be pretty good at what I do down there because they like me. But my experience over quite a span of time has been almost anybody can be a member of that board. We just provide the materials to give them the background to how it functions. But the only thing we want people to do is think. Take in information, absorb it, and think, and provide input. And vote what they believe is correct. That's it. Qualifications are useless to me. I just don't see the value. You need a mix of people. You don't want a bunch of engineers, because you'll never get the job done. You don't want a whole bunch of experts in the field or construction people. What you want is a nice broad group of people, all having their own perspective on everything. With that one concept is, we're collecting people's money, and we have to be fair and just about it. Case closed. You gotta run an operation. It requires a budget. Do I want somebody who's an accountant and a budget expert? Been through that. Didn't work as well as I thought it should. Okay? And that's a scary thought. So almost anybody can learn how a budget works, given time. That's fine. If they're willing to volunteer and they're willing to stick around, we've got the time. That's what I would prefer to see. I don't want anybody who has any particular qualifications. Just they want to be people who care and can think for themselves. That's it, nothing else.
Okay.
Okay, Jim?
At the risk of prolonging this conversation,
Don't do it.
I agree with Paul. But I think running up against the law of supply and demand, you gotta take a step back and do the recruiting before you start weeding people out and assigning them to the proper seat and everything else. For example, the Veterans Commission used to be 13 people. We went down to 9. We don't have 9. I'd just soon have a warm body if you got one out there.
So. I think just so everybody understands, what we're talking about in this vetting process, maybe vetting is not the best title for what we're trying to do here. It's really trying to gain some excitement from somebody that's out there, that we put together what the purpose is of this committee that has an opening, or even if they don't have an opening, we're going to put that out there. So it's a board or commission, so that, you know, if you have an interest, and people that have interest in things is because they have a likeness for it. And it's not about educational credentials in and of itself. It's about, do you like to do this? Do you think you'd like to participate in what these people do? And that's what we're trying to get across, what we're trying to get done.
Yeah.
Bill Lowes, Morris Road. At the last meeting, I asked about a treasurer. And I seen with this new budget and everything else here, I think you gotta have a treasurer. Did you get a treasurer yet?
No. But we're working on one. We've got a couple resumes. Another person that's called, been expressed interest, they seem to be pretty good. We haven't got his resume. So we're going to give it maybe in 2 weeks, we'll start interviewing again. That's
You need one for your budget here.
Huh?
Because the charter says you gotta have a treasurer for the budget.
What if we don't? We have an acting treasurer, there you go.
Right.
Yeah, and Gail's doing a fantastic job. And I was, let me say about that, I was worried about this. And I said, oh my God, the budget process, and Gail is working awfully hard. And if I look at the budget, you know, here we are, in February, we're gonna have the February 1st, 6th, 8th, 17th, 20th, 22nd, and 28th. And I said, and then we have to do the same thing for the Board of Finance. How can Gail do all that? But she said, well, I'd rather be there than not understand what's going on, and she has circumstances that allow her to do it, so I feel more comfortable with our budget process now. I'm working on treasurer.
Okay, one other comment about volunteers. When I was chief of the fire department, we had 60 members down there. We had people waiting in line to get in there. And now, you can't get volunteers. People want to volunteer. They're down around 22. And they just don't volunteer anymore. People don't volunteer for anything anymore. They want to sit home and watch TV. They
At
want
one
to
point
come
in time,
here.
Bill, it was almost recreation, wasn't it? When your
Right.
dad and my dad were in the fire department, they had a hell of a good time, they
Right,
really
they
did.
did.
They went up and built carnival, structures and all that kind of stuff, and they thought they're having a hell of a time. It's a bad job. I can remember when my brother Jerry and my dad would race out of the house at midnight to go fight a fire, and I'd be all snuggled in and say, not me.
Right.
So
They still do that, the ones that are down
yeah,
there. 24 hours, 24/7.
things have changed.
Okay, if there's no more public participation, we'll, yeah, we'll go home. We gotta sign just the check registers, but we can do that with time. And we're gonna, I would entertain a motion to go into executive session, and that would include Dave Roca, is he here? Rocha, Rich, yeah, and you, so Lori Whitten. Anybody else?
I don't
Phil?
have anybody else coming in. We'll
Okay.
find out if they are or not.
All right, so I'd entertain a motion to go into executive session. Well, I'll say, I move we go into executive session and with Lori Whitten, Dave Roca, and Rich Capier.
We have to first of all, close this meeting.
Yes.
No.
No,
No.
no, we don't. No, I'm wrong. Okay, so is there a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break, and I'll turn off the TV.
Someone said we were going home.
You're not gonna go.
I'm going home.
Well, we are.
We're going. Punishment's not over.
Good night.